First off, little content warning. I will be talking about stalking, abusive relationships, and there will be mentions of terminated pregnancies and or abortion. This will come up later in the presentation. If you're not feeling comfortable with it, I won't mind if you just get up and move away. Just a little heads up about that. Clicky clicky. Who am I? Who is Daniëlle? Well, you might have noticed that my name has been spelled different ways around. You see it with Dani with an I, Dani with a Y. I'm kind of used to like this and this and this because, well, yeah, there is a trema in my name, the little umlaut. It breaks systems still so much. And at some point, I got an email from my CEO, and it was like, "Dear Dani." Where's the rest of my name? I got like 4 more letters there, and it was ignored. So that stuck with colleagues, and now people start calling me Dani. And if you have been listening to Tess her talk earlier today, the Daniëlle she's mentioning was me. I'm the owner of the broom. You can take pictures with it if you want. I'm here all day. I'm a certified estate hiker, which is to say, I do not have any certifications in the way of security. Not even in the way of computer science. I have a bachelor's degree in hotel management. And I'm working as a testing, pen tester and DevSecOps security consultant at Society for different companies, including Bank B. And I do a lot of threat modeling. And from this threat modeling, this talk arose. And you might notice the little rainbow flag. I'm a proud member of the Rainbow Mafia, the LGBT alliances, all the things. So you might have me seen on Hacker Hotel talking about that kind of subjects. So what I'm going to talk about to you today is threat modeling. Not threat modeling with a D, like we did if you've been to Otilia's talk about knitting. Threat modeling with a T, threats. I'm going to talk about the why we need to do it, the what it is. I'm going to talk about who you are, who I'm doing this talk for, methodologies, how we can do this, and we're going to put this into practice. So why am I doing this talk? You might have been at MCH 2022 listening to Chantal talking about stalkerware, and it's not just stalkerware. One of the questions asked at the end of the talk is there a list of things that we can do? Are there methods? And the answer was like, yeah, not really. And this is where Chantal asked people for help. And ever since that presentation, this has been grinding in my head. I've been literally working on this presentation for over a year. First it was like a little article, and now it's like a full-blown presentation. So, who are you? Well, I'm going to think you're a regular person. You might be in a relationship. You might use certain forms of healthcare, and if you see the ones up here, you probably know I'm talking about reproductive healthcare, abortion, and gender-affirming care. You might be a person that has some ideals, mainly left-leaning, nature, environmentally leaning, things like Extinction Rebellion, Greenpeace, Just Stop Oil. You might be in that kind of area. Who are you not? I'm not talking here to criminals. I'm not talking here to people who are of interest of an intelligence agency or if you're on the run for a dictatorial regime. The things I'm going to talk about, you might be able to use it if you're one of these people. But if you're really of interest for the AIVD or the NSA or the CIA or the Mossad, don't talk to me. Talk to Citizen Lab. Talk to Electronic Frontier Foundation because you need way more than I can give you. This is way above my pay grade. So be mindful of that. I can help you a little bit, but for the in-depth things about big threat actors, you will need a bit more than I can offer you. So, threat modeling, what is it? There are a lot of books, and I have show stocks where work at my little lying on my desk is like this big, 500 pages. But in the end, and this is written by Shostak himself, what is threat modeling? 4 central questions. You're going to talk about what are we working on? What is my system or my application in the case? And in this case, we're going to talk about what is my system? Because you have a system, you have a digital footprint. What can go wrong? How can people abuse this system against you or against me? And very important, if you think about what can go wrong, what can we do to stop this? And in the end is, did we do a good enough job? So, what are we working on? I do a lot of threat modeling in my daily work with teams, and mostly like microservices and small applications. And you start by drawing out a data flow diagram. So you see like an API and a user that does stuff. And stuff happens, and the systems talk to each other. So I want to do this, but then for my own little devices and tech stack. So I get a first attempt at this. And I tried grouping things together. What are my physical devices? What kind of accounts do contain location data? What kind of Instagram? And what kind of social media do we have? Do I have a smart home? And I started like drawing lines to it. And I was like, well, I think I've got most of it. And then this came out. Mozilla, looking at the privacy issues in car apps. Your car knows a lot about you. You probably think, well, yeah, my car knows where I am because GPS and maybe some driving habits and if I'm speeding. If you're going to dive into what car apps want to know about you, location, sure. Driving statistics, sure. Sexual activity. Your car app, if you're going to go into the terms and conditions, they will serve their rights to gather information about sexual activity. They will want to be able to gather genetic information. I have no idea how they will want to do this. But they just like, oh, maybe this is handig. Maybe it gets used. And I think Mendel's there, handig is geen reden. It's not a good reason, but yeah, genetic information. It also says most of these terms and conditions say this information will be shared with law enforcement upon informal requests. So no court orders, no subpoenas, informal requests. It's a cop. Hey, can you tell me where Daniëlle has been? Has she been to Planned Parenthood? Has she been to an abortion clinic? Or maybe it's your stalker pretending to be the police agency. Hey, I'm Officer Johnson of the FBI, truly. Can you tell me where my ex-girlfriend has been? So now I have to worry what my Subaru Outback knows about me. So I added my Subaru, my proverbial Subaru, because I do not drive, I don't have a license, to the drawing I had. And the guy think, okay, I've got it done. And then I was talking and chatting on the Angry Nerds Discord. And somebody said, well, if you have like a chipped cat or dog or any other pet, those information, those databases are open. The only thing you need is a 15-digit numeric value. That's all you need. You get name, address, phone numbers, description of your animal, and the vet. So now I have to worry what Mr. Mistopheles can leak about my data. So I started to look like this guy. Just putting everything down, drawing lines, how it's connected. It was a mess. And then I remembered something I read on the Threat Modeling Manifesto. It's a pitfall that they warn for is perfect representation. There is no perfect representation. But I have come to something. And the something is divide your things into categories. And I was inspired by the OSI stack. You probably know it. You start with the hardware layer and you end up with the presentation layer at top within a total of 7. So I started thinking about, well, let's start from the most sensitive to the least sensitive. My physical devices, my phone, my laptops, my smart home devices, those are probably the most sensitive because they give access to everything. They contain everything. And then I get my primary accounts. And I'm quite sure if I have any of your unlocked phones, for many people in this room, I own your life. Because I get access to your email, I get access to your password resets, I can do so much things with just your unlocked phone. So these two are important. Then we have sensitive accounts. Banking, medical, and things that share your location in exact GPS data. Your personal accounts, social media, streaming services, just your regular run-of-the-mill stuff that you use every day. And peripheral accounts is the shopping websites where you just buy one book. Or every museum where you get a ticket. If you want to go to a museum, you buy an online ticket. You need to fill in all your address stuff. Every web service that wants you to set up an account. Now, where is my next slide? Hello. So, doing this in practice, I started like this. We start with the physical devices, your car, your watch, smartwatch, smart home devices. You notice that I put Facebook here. Primary account, because have you ever used the login with Facebook button on the website? Who did? Well, quite a few more people than I was expecting here. I use the login with Google all the time because it's easy. It's a single sign-on provider. Single sign-on is easy. Login with Google. Don't set up another account. Then you have the sensitive accounts, bank, period tracker. Period tracker might be important for some people as well. All your personal accounts, your Netflix, your streaming services, and you notice that I put Fitbit and Strava with sensitive account here. Fitbit, health tracker, Strava, run tracker. It is able to track me real time. And finally, all the peripheral accounts. So let's do a little exercise, because if we're going to start drawing lines on this one, it will be a spider web. This is all the information that contains direct GPS data. This is somewhat how you can connect it. And yeah, then you have your partner's devices. Now it's going to be interesting, because your devices are simple, but your partner devices might have had access to some of your systems. You might have used your partner's device to access your email or your Facebook. You might have shared devices that you have enrolled your thumbprint on your partner's phone. So what about your partner turning bad, turning evil? What does your partner's device has access to because you've used it once or twice to make connection with it, with your Google account, with your Strava, with your Netflix? A lot of people living together share a Netflix account. And then we're going to talk about what Chantal talked in her talk. The evil tracker, the smart tracker that is dropped in your bag or attached to your car, or the actual stalkerware. So the specific software. This is just a small part of my presentation because most of the stalkerware is already on your phone or on your laptop. Now let's do a little practice session. I'm a runner. I do runs, and I use my Fitbit to track my run. That connects to my phone. My phone uploads this stuff to Fitbit, and Fitbit uploads it to Strava. Strava is one of the many run apps that you have. Everything is connected by Google. And I can post the whole thing via Strava on social media, and it would look something like this. This is a run, a year ago, Vienna. Very nice city, by the way. Go there. It shows me where I was when I started. It shows me the exact route where I've run. I've put some pictures in there. You can share it on social media. Or, if you go at the bottom, only your followers can view this activity. My friends on Strava can see this as soon as I upload it. This is going to be important later. So, if you have this kind of systems, then you can think the next question in threat modeling is, well, I've got what are we working on? What can go wrong? And thinking of what can go wrong is hard. This is where it becomes really, really difficult. This is where methodologies can help you. I'm talking here about Stride, which is probably the most well-known of these systems. The technical one, officially called Microsoft Threat Modeling, but everybody calls it just Stride because it's way easier. Stride has inspired some people at the KU Leuven to create Linden. And Linden is basically the same kind of thinking, but just from a privacy perspective, for specific privacy reasons. And Linden is officially built as a one system, many people system. And we're talking about one person, many systems. But it can still be useful if you're doing some threat modeling. And persona non grata. And in this presentation, I'm going to go down into persona non grata because it's going to get hard and difficult already. It has the lowest entrance level because it's just role-playing. And persona non grata talks about a evil persona. What are you going to talk about in an evil persona is who are they? What is their motivation to attack you or to abuse your systems? Is it money? Is it data? Is it access to you? And what are their objectives? So what is in it for them? And how much effort are they willing to put in? How much money do they have? How much time do they have? What is their skill level? And again, if your persona non grata is the AIVD, a lot of money, a lot of skills, probably plenty enough perseverance. However, if your persona non grata is Steve, your ex-partner, Steve the stalker, I like my alliterations. Think about Steve. Steve is your ex-partner. Relationship has turned sour. You split up, and Steve turned out to be abusive. Maybe he already was abusive in the relationship, but Steve turned out to be abusive. Keep in mind, Steve had access to your devices, unlocked or was able to unlock them. You've shared some accounts. And his motivation is jealousy. He has the feeling that you belong to only him. So nobody else is going to have you, nobody else is going to find you. His objective is to track you, to exert his control over you, and to gain access, to be in your life. The efforts, he's obsessive. So he's got all the time in the world. He's got all the perseverance in the world. His skills, though, might be limited. His funds also might be limited. If you're going to do this from a good threat modeling perspective, you can augment this using Stride. Go read up on the Stride method. You can augment this because this is more a technical thing. One warning, before you're acting on abuse of stalkers, consider the risk of escalation and violence. So if you think you've been stalked, don't just wipe your phone, don't just start acting on the things that you're going to see. Be mindful of what Steve might do. Maybe you need to get some precautions, talk to the police first. So, here is my run again. Let's see what kind of threats we can find in my run. First off, Steve was a follower because we're partners, so he could look at my Strava account. He could run. He can do that directly because he has friends. Because he's in the same group, he can have groups on Strava. Or he can look at somebody else who's still friends with both of you and look at their phone and like, oh, did you know what Daniëlle did for running this week? So this gives you exact GPS data and timestamps. Strava also has a gamification option. It has segments and local heroes with leaderboards. So if you do a certain section of a run or a bike ride quite often, you become a local hero. You can also be like a segment that you have a leaderboard for who did a certain segment for the fastest ever. Also, these kind of things show when you did it, who it is, date, time, data. And of course, your social media, if he's not a friend with you in your Strava account, but you're still posting it in public posts on social media, Twitter, X, Blue Sky, Facebook. So the worst really scary Facebook hoodie, is he in the room? No. People can find out routes and habits. You might have heard the story about people, military personnel not being allowed to use Strava anymore because, well, they could find out where the bombs were. Because, yeah, military personnel did the same route. They know where the entrances was, when they were running, when the sentries were around, things like that. So you can find a lot of habits. The next one is tampering with your Netflix account. What does Netflix contain? Well, Netflix contains your watch list, what you have just watched. What do you still want to watch, or where are you in your series? It has a recommendation algorithm. And that's not a big deal. Well, Steve had access to your Netflix account because you shared it. And these things suddenly become evil. These things become threats. and you still think, well, it's my watch list. If you remember what the East German Stasi did, they would break into your house, they go into your bathroom, and they just put down your toothbrush that you always put on the right, they put on the left side of your sink. And they would leave. They would go in, rearrange your bookcase, and then they would leave. What they would try to do is start instilling paranoia, to separate you from your friends, to separate you from your family, because you're the paranoid one. You're crazy. No, but your toothbrush doesn't walk around. You put it on the left side. And I'm giving really blatant, planned, simple examples here because you do not want to turn this talk into a stalking 101. So you might be thinking, well, this is very simple stuff. That's on purpose. But yeah, just having access to somebody's Netflix accounts can be really, really, really annoying. Just erasing somebody's watch list. It's annoying as hell. So if you're going to do this exercise and you start writing stuff down, then writing, you get a threat model. This is a threat model. You write down your threats, and you write down the things you can do against it, your mitigations. Tampering your Netflix accounts, what do you do against it? Well, you log out all your devices. Rotate password, enable multi-factor authentication if you've not done that. Physical stalking during your workouts. Well, you stop sharing them on Strava. You set up your privacy permission. Strava and Runkeeper and Garmin, they have quite a few privacy options that you can use, like at least hide your starting and ending of your runs. You might need to change your routines and your routes that you run, because Steve already knows where you run, and he knows that you always do it on Friday morning. Tracking via your AirTag or SmartTag or any Bluetooth device you own, because any Bluetooth device you own is a SmartTag. You can use notifications in iOS. You can use an app like AirGuard on Android to know that you're being tracked. If you're worried about stalkerware, actual specific stalkerware, most antivirus programs will detect the common stalkerware software. You can go to the Anti-Stalkerware Coalition. They will have some more guidance on how to do that. There's also special anti-stalkerware tooling that would not set off the device, that would not inform your stalker that it's been scanned. If you just remove stalkerware, then yeah, your ex-partner, your stalker will know that you have removed it. So be aware of escalations. Access to your primary accounts, your Google, your Facebook. Log them out. Every big system has now a log out all devices option. Click that, rotate your passwords, enable MFA, make sure that you own the second factor or the third factor, and it's not like something he can still access. But these are all responsive. Maybe you want to be earlier than that. Maybe you want to consider not sharing devices in the first place. And this is a hard call, because do you trust your partner? Or will you be the, no, you cannot have my phone. It's my phone. Or do you still like, yeah, it's my partner. We can share devices. And this is where you need to decide, what is my threat appetite? I know that Fleur just said it, like, it's a dirty word. What is your threat appetite? How much risk are you willing to take? For most people, sharing your devices will not be that much of a problem. Some cases it will be, and at some points, at some cases, you will only find it out later. Because Steve is a nice guy. But it turned out later in the relationship that he is abusive or possessive. You can also think about people still having access to your photos. If you have your location turned on your phone, your photos, date, time, GPS location stamp. You might want to think about revoking access to an iCloud that you share, or shared libraries or shared albums from Google Photos. There are different systems, different software that give options for this. So this was the stalkerware part of the presentation. Now we're going about the little, the fun stuff and a little surprise. The somewhat oppressive governments. And you say, somewhat oppressive governments? Somewhat oppressive governments. I'm an activist. You might have known, well, abortion is secure in the US. And then they repealed Roe v. Wade last year. So a whole bunch of states banned abortions. And they even track you and have rules and laws in place that you're not allowed to go into another state to have an abortion. 19 states, and this is an older piece of news, so probably it's more now, have laws restricting gender-affirming care, transgender health care. This might start happening in Europe, in the Netherlands even. There are talks, if you look at the new elections, there are parties that want to restrict gender-affirming care for youth. And there are quite a few of them, actually. Facebook has already helped law enforcement to arrest a teen that had an abortion. And then we had this little piece of this little gem. People were being called into questioning. They were not made a suspect, but they were called into questioning to have a talk with the marechaussee, the military police, because they might have been at a protest at Schiphol from Extinction Rebellion. The person, Kirsten Verdel, one of the journalists that was on that list that got invited, is like, I was not been there. I don't know how they know, but I liked a tweet from Extinction Rebellion once, and this is the likely link between her and Extinction Rebellion protest. She liked a tweet. This is somewhat oppressive government. And somewhat oppressive government, yes, this is Rijksoverheid. This might get me uninvited to the one conference at some point. Cedric, the civil servant. Again, I like my alliterations. He's a civil servant, and he can work for a whole number of government agencies. UWV, tax office, police. Can be a whole bunch of them. Because all the government agencies think they're like now, they're a secret service nowadays. The motivation comes from a political level. They want to assert control. They want to shake down. They want to repress people abusing benefits. We've seen that. Toeslagenaffaire. Their objective is find new offenders to make into suspects. Again, these are not people that are already suspect of a crime, that are like, oh, I think Daniëlle has done something. No, there's like, oh, there's a whole big data set. Let's use some AI tooling. Let's use some OSINT. Let's just do some scanning of large data sets and see if we can find somebody who might have done something bad, who might have had an abortion, who might are using gender-affirming care, and this is my personal thing that I'm really passionate about. But things who might have done something bad into the big cable slave web things. Into data sets they buy from Facebook, from advertising agencies, because there's a lot of information in there. You can augment this kind of threat modeling with Linden. It's a privacy-based threat modeling system, and especially like the linkability and the identifiability, the L and the I, are really interesting for these kind of things. Also, the unawareness and the unintervenability. Well, I don't have too much time, so I'm not going to do the whole entire diagram. I'm going to give you a few options or a few examples of threats and what we're going to do about it. Facial recognition at protests. So if you are at like an Extinction Rebellion protest because you align with their views, or you just sit on the AR12, you might want to obscure your face at them. You might want to try Ottilia's threat modeling if you've been to her talk. We know that it's not super effective at really obscuring it, but you might poison the data set a little bit by just overloading it with more faces. Being tracked through mobile devices at sensitive locations via Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. Turn off your Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Yeah, but Daniëlle, iOS has a system that masks and gives every Wi-Fi endpoint a different MAC address. Last week in the news, that didn't work. In general, yes, but if you know one port to ask, it gives you the standard MAC address all the time. So every iPhone could have been tracked through Wi-Fi, just by just talking to it. Leave devices at home. This is where the burner phone comes into play, maybe. If you still want to be able to be connecting or talking to your friends, then you might need a burner phone. If you're going to read the information that Extinction Rebellion provides to the protesters, which is just plain on the internet, they say, leave your devices at home. So they cannot track you. If you have a period tracker to track your menstrual cycle, make sure or think about what would happen if the government can see that you might have a terminated pregnancy or an aborted pregnancy for any reason. Natural causes, just not being pregnant enough, or an actual abortion. Keep in mind, look at those terms and conditions, at the privacy statements, because some will sell this information to anyone who wants. And if that anyone who wants is the public prosecutor, looking for people who might have an abortion that they want to repress, there you go. And one last thing, function creep of legitimate observation techniques. What can you do against that? Because you cannot just, well, if the police start searching or AIing through all data sets, you cannot stop that. However, you can engage in politics. You can vote upcoming parliamentary elections here in the Netherlands next month. Next month. Upcoming European elections next year. Vote. You can support your privacy advocates. You can support privacy organizations like the EFF or the None of Your Business. That's always going after the abusers of cookies. You can talk to those kind of people, support them. So, going back to the 4 questions, did we do a good enough job? Did we do a good enough job in threat modeling? Well, we've tried to map out our system. And if my system or my diagramming technique is not good enough, probably not. It is something. We tried to create a diagram to list out all the stuff that we have. And this goes deep because, as you've seen, I thought I had it all, then the car, and I thought I had it all, then it was the cat, and I thought I had it all, and there will be a whole host of other things that I have not even thought about that can leak my data, that can contain my data, that might be of interest of somebody trying to hack me. But it's something. We went through that diagram and started systematically thinking and trying of like, okay, how can this be abused against me? How can this leak my data? How can this leak my location? And we have started to think of things to stop that from happening. We have things to mitigate those things. Might have already done it. So did we do a good enough job? Yeah, I think we did. If you do all those kind of things, even just if you sit down with a piece of paper thinking, okay, I've got a phone, I've got a smartwatch, I've got a smart home, those are all connected. I use my Facebook to log in, or I use my Google to log in, or do I have separate passwords that I keep in my password manager so that you still have to do or do I have to use multi-factor authentication? However, there should be one here. We're not done. One of the things about threat modeling is it's not a one-off thing. It's not a one single snapshot that you can do. Yeah. There's a little delay here. So, are we done now? No, not really. 2 values from the Threat Modeling Manifesto to come back to where I started. Threat modeling is a journey of understanding. It's an ongoing process, not a single snapshot. Also, it is agile. I know everybody's like, yay, agile! I had one taker. Who likes agile? But yeah, it's a continuous refinement. You're gonna keep doing it because you're gonna add new systems. AI is now a big thing, an increasingly big thing. Algorithms are increasingly a bigger threat. You're gonna have badges. You're gonna have new phones, new systems, smartwatches, new technology that you cannot even think about. Your car. If you have an old beat-up car, probably not, but if you buy a new nice Subaru Outback, and Subaru is one of the least of your problems, Kia is terrible, Nissan as well, then you have to factor in that kind of things. And there's also going to be new threat actors in your life. Because I was never supposed to think when I came out 10 years ago to my parents, I'm trans, that I would ever need to worry about the availability of transgender healthcare in the Netherlands. But now it's at risk for the youth, and from the youth, from adults. You might become in a relationship with a really nice guy that turns out to be abusive. Or become friends with somebody who turns out to be an abusive stalker. Or just because you pass him by and you don't smile at him when he asks for you, and he turns into your stalker. So you will need to be going on. That's for real. Time is up. Are you done talking? I am. You're done with me. Any questions?
Thank you so much. It's very interesting because when I was in Mali, there was the whole thing about the Strava app. Mm-hmm. And we really, they said to us, please don't run anymore. We said, but we have to let off steam, so please don't say that to us. So that was very interesting. So, are there any questions? Yes, I see a question here in front.
Okay, continuing on from the Strava theme, I've had my bike stolen because I went out for a bike ride, forgot something, came back. The security features only work at the start and finish of the bike ride. This also happens if you go and you meet a friend and continue on. How can we educate people that Strava's a bloody great big security risk and we really should stop publicizing our data like this?
That's a really hard one because you need to start doing awareness. And if you see influencers talk about that, that is hard. You need to educate people or say that, hey, I know you use Strava. If you know that, please don't track when we were running or biking together, because that is my threat model, because I'm afraid to being followed.
Okay, thanks. Hi. So you mentioned that a lot of us, me included, I'm pretty sure a lot of people already raised their hands that they use their Facebook account to log into other applications, and Google account, my Google is logged into everything because it's the easiest thing.
Yeah.
But if somebody gets hold of my Google, my life is stopped because I can't access most of the things. So how do you prevent that from happening?
Set up good multi-factor authentication that at least you know what devices are able to be used. Or consider not using the single sign-on feature of Google. And we know if you're talking corporate, they say, no, use single sign-on because that is good. Because you want to, if you're going to do no single sign-on, you're going to do name and passwords at every system, you need to set good passwords. And you need to do individual MFA, which I argue might be better. It's also a lot more work. And this is where the trade-off comes, because how easy is it to do it? And doing Google login or Apple ID login is a pretty good system. They got their stuff down. Opposed to using bad passwords or doing good passwords, but that's more hassle. So you need to trade off, how much risk am I willing to take? What is my risk appetite? To use ease of access.
But a lot of the extra applications, like you mentioned, like the movie theaters, like you're booking movie online or online shopping, they don't always have the option of an MFA.
Yeah.
It's just, and a lot of the times even the password cannot be longer than a very 8 characters or something, which is not secure in any way or form. Then how do you handle those things? You still need to use the application.
Maybe consider not putting in your real address. For example, if I was in London last month, I wanted to see the Science Museum. You need to buy an online ticket. It's free, by the way. You don't need to pay, but you need to give your address. So do I give my real address? Of what? Address of the museum, yeah. If you're working with me on the pen test and I'm testing your applications and I need an address, it's always a museum. Always. You always get the museum addresses from me. But yeah, do you give your real address and your real name? You probably need to give a email address that you can read, because they will send you a e-ticket through email. But you need to think about that if you're going to put in your real address and your real phone number.
Okay, so as a small little addendum, the Strava one is a very good, a bit older example of software that is able to track you in real time. But another example that a lot of people don't know is, for example, Snapchat. I don't know why, but people leave a setting on that all your friends can see where you are in real time. Because of that, know where my niece is, where a good friend of mine is at all time. Slightly risky. Even worse, that is that they also give like how crowded is a certain area as well. So what can you do with that as a stalker, for example? Oh, this person I want to follow is now in a not crowded area. How convenient. So be mindful of what features some social media apps or other apps have. Because it doesn't always have to be something that's explicitly saying it's tracking you. It might just be a side feature that you maybe don't know about.
Yeah, I'm going to say the one thing that nobody wants to do, read the terms and conditions. Nobody reads them, but it's in there.
Any other questions?
And not a real question. You just reminded me of something about the lying about your address. For all the people here, password recovery questions. Lie.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Your mother's maiden name? Calypso. Where were you born? Saturn. I don't care as long as you remember the answers, because your ex will know.
Yeah, but if I can't remember my password, do I remember what secret answers I put in?
Yeah, fair point. Password manager. Yeah.
Yeah, but then I can write down my passwords in a password safe.
Yes.
Thank you for the talk, first of all. My question was more because you talked about refining the threat model, which is obviously a practice that should be followed, especially with digital footprint threat modeling. How often do you do that? Like, because with the broader scope of so many applications and you buying every kind of gadgets every other day, where does it stop?
That's the hard one. How much time do you want to put in? I've been working on this since August 2022. When Chantal did her talk on the stalkware, I've been thinking about this for more than a year, constantly. How often do you do this? Well, at least I hope you at least sit down once, have a look, think about, and then whenever you get like just an idea, read a news article about the car that's been leaking data, or the Apple Wi-Fi MAC address spoofing that doesn't work. Being able to track that, maybe have a look at that. What happens then? Or when you get a new app, when you start using Snapchat or TikTok, or whenever you get a new piece of social media, maybe look at the terms and conditions, or maybe look at the privacy settings and think about your threat model and like maybe draw it in. But I can't give you a best practice how often you should do this. If you do this like every month, once a quarter, because there's no best practice yet. I see still more questions.
I have a question about elderly people who have also all weird kind of apps we don't use, of course. But what's a good argument for them stop using it? Because I cannot talk them out of it.
That's the really hard one, because if you're adamant about using TikTok or Snapchat or Pokemon Go, for example, a lot of geographical data in there, because they really like it, and it's hard. You can only try to raise some awareness to set up the privacy functions, but you can't really just ban them from using it unless you have control over their device, because it's a corporate device and you can do like the technical rules that Fleur likes so much. This is hard, and this is the thing where you need to talk to other people, where not just your devices are an issue, and that's why I put in your partner's device, because they are also a threat and they're out of your control.
Sorry. Thank you.
So mine is not really a question, sorry for that. But I hear you say several times, check the terms of conditions or privacy policy. I've noticed myself that's usually very technically and purposefully obfuscated, so you don't really find that they're actually selling your data. So for everyone else who is like interested in what their apps are collecting or which apps to use, I recommend, for instance, the Mozilla app, Privacy Not Included Buyer's Guide. It's very simple. It's an online website. If you search for Privacy Not Included, they have an overview of apps or devices. I think even sex toys, they might have removed that. Of what data they collect, what they use it for, and it's usually written in very simple language so that everyone can understand. Same with period trackers, they have everything there. So definitely a recommendation for anyone who's interested in improving this.
Yeah, actually, that is how I came to know about cars, because I know, yeah, you've got an app for your car, so you can unlock it on the distance, and you can check your mileage and stuff. But I never knew they had the option of tracking your genetic data. I have no idea how they do that. But they want to reserve the option that they can track your genetic data, and nobody reads terms and conditions that deep. And Mozilla did that for you, and I believe they said in that article that they have spent 200 or 400 hours reading terms and conditions for just 20 car manufacturers. Then I would like to thank you for your time and your attention.